was.
Favorite movie and why?
Man, like it's always been, it's Braveheart. I know that that's everybody's all got, but I just love, I love the passion and the relentless pursuit and the unwavering relentlessness of this guy. And it was based off of an actual guy that lived, right? And his pursuit of this ideal and his willingness to just not relent. I just eat that freaking lunch, man.
I love that movie. I love it, man.
Welcome to the On the Edge podcast with your host, Scott Groves.
Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Scott Groves, and we're here with Clay Duncan, who he doesn't know. I'm going to name this episode, cheerleader, male cheerleader to mortgages. That's going to be the name of the episode, because what most people don't know about my good friend and old friend, Clay Duncan, is that he was a male cheerleader. He was really good at it, and he met his wife because she was the hottest cheerleader on the squad. So it has a happy ending. But Clay is an old friend of mine. We worked together at Movement Mortgage for a lot of years. One of the best leaders that I've worked for in my life, and I've worked for a lot of good ones and a lot of shitty ones. But Clay's one of those guys where, like, if I had to change companies, if I had to go talk to somebody, if I just needed some advice, like, he's one of those first calls, and we'll probably get into some reasons why. And currently, what is your title now at USA Mortgage? Like, I know you just run shit, but like what is your actual title?
SVP of National Production.
National Production. So you make sure that everybody does their job. And how many loan officers do you have there?
About 300.
Okay, so you're in charge of the positive production of 300 loan officers.
Yes, as long as it's positive. If it's negative, I didn't do it.
Yeah, you didn't do it. And I hate the idea of managing loan officers, like with a just burning passion in my heart. I love helping loan officers. I hate managing them. So like coaching is great, right? Because like they give me money, I coach them, and like whatever they do with the information, that's on them. But when you have to manage loan officers, you're like, my income is directly tied to your production, and like you're not listening to my advice or my ideas. And then I just wanted to kill myself. So for the couple years that we made that little stint at New American Funding where we managed like 40 loan officers, I want to kill myself that entire 2 years. So what is it about managing people that you actually like?
I don't, and for clarity, like I would, 300 folks, that's a lot. We've got really great leaders in place, and, they're heavily engaged in day to day, especially right now, new year kicking off, 24, going through goals, making them smart and really engaged, So, the day-to-day activities that an originator is involved in, like I'm not necessarily the guy that's helping with that. I do if I'm asked, but I'm working with the RVPs, the regionals.
So you're leading the leaders.
Yes.
What do you like about that? Because that seems even worse to me.
I love leaders who step forward and, the old red phone, green phone,
No. I don't know. I don't know the story.
Yeah. Well, it's, got two phones, red phone, green phone. One phone rings, it's green phone. It's a deal coming in the door. Loan officer picks it up. I want to take that deal. Red phone is, someone on the team got a problem. I need some help. Can you help me solve? Can you help me fix this deal and help it close? The one that you choose to answer is reflective, usually, of the position that you're in, right? If you're a leader, you're picking up the red phone. If you're an originator, you're picking up the green phone. Thing is, if you're a leader and you're picking up the green phone, and they're both ringing at the same time, and you choose to pick up the green phone, the question is, are you in the right role? Are you in the right position? Are you in the right seat? And the thing I love about working with leaders, especially guys and gals that just want it, right? Like want to grow, want to invest in themselves, want to help other people. Like to me, that's really fun. Like that's engaging. And that's one of the reasons I love, I just counted them up on the way here because I was asked earlier today. It's like, how many books have you read so far, or did you have any book recommendations? And I was like, holy crap, I've read 5 books this so far One of them was a manuscript that's getting released next week. I don't know if that's what you call it, but my buddy Kuba Yevgenyev owns Realty One Group, releasing his first book. So,
awesome.
Yeah. So I just read that, and I just love consuming information that can help myself grow and help others. I think John Maxwell's maybe the one that says, you can't give what you don't have.
Yeah.
Right. And
it's a good quote.
I love that. Like, I love being able to take, information that can help other people move themselves forward in their business, in their life, in their career. And it's fun. Yeah. That's what I like about leadership, is being able to help other folks, get whatever they want. The old Zig Ziglar quote, right?
Yeah, help other people get what they want. You'll get everything you want.
There you go.
Yeah, I like that one too. So I'm going to dive right into the hard questions, right? Because there's been this big push over the last 10 years of really vilifying leadership in the mortgage space, right? So the whole brokers is better movement. And I think there's a great place for brokers, like seasoned individuals who maybe don't need as much leadership, or, they're core competent on their own. There's been a big push of like, oh, well, these leaders at these mortgage companies are the problem because they peel off a couple bips here and a couple bips here. And all of a sudden your pricing is so much better or so much worse if you work at a bank or a mortgage bank instead of a broker. And so that sounds pretty compelling, right? It sounds like, oh yeah, there's just these layers of leadership that don't do shit for me. And then I get a worse price to deliver to the consumer. But what doesn't get talked about on social media, because I've been pretty, I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm pretty opinionated. I've been pretty opinionated that the brokers are better thing is just pathetic infighting that's going to serve a couple different entities, and we can decide to talk about that or not. But I get the social media message on the other side where it's like, Scott, I've been doing this for 18 months and I got talked into going and becoming a broker, and I don't know what the fuck I'm doing or how to structure a deal or how to talk to a client. Like, is coaching right for me? And I'm like, well, first of all, you need to find a good leader. So you need to go to a USA Mortgage or a Synergy One or a Movement or a NAP, and you need to find a good leader to pour into you and train. Like, being a broker or maybe having slightly better margins or pricing, that is a reward for knowing everything about the business and being able to manage yourself. Starting at that level, that's like a fool's errand. So I guess I'm going on a big diatribe here, but I guess my question is, where are leaders in the mortgage space still adding value to the process or the originator or the company? Like, what is the role of like a modern mortgage leader? That's a very long-winded way to get to a simple question.
Man, I love that. Well, first of all, a couple things. Number one, as an originator, you got to get what you're paying for, right? If you're looking for, that skinny deal, it's going to come with like skinny everything, tech, ops, marketing. Like, you just don't get anything.
Right.
And, when you talk about like leaders, what does the modern day mortgage leader look like, and how are they investing to help their team? There's one specific person that's just really strong right now for us organizationally. And I'm not going to say the name, but he is, and what's funny is like, he doesn't know how good he is. Incredibly humble, leads from the heart, genuine, authentic, and just crushing it for his team. And the thing that he's doing at the next level, and it really came from recruiting conversations, right? Is developing his own personal value system and what that looks like for an originator that he's in conversation with, and what spun out from that, right? Because a lot of people will be like, hey, come over here. Look at all this great stuff that we offer, marketing, tech, ops. Here's our mission, vision, value. But what does that mean to the originator? And so as a leader, people follow leaders, right? People get to choose who they work for. And so what is your value proposition that you're providing as a part of this greater organization. And if you don't have one, you're DOA.
Yeah.
And if you do have one, then that's great that you're pitching it to the recruit. But what about the current team? And that's this aha moment that he has, and he's got a partner. They have fallen into this aha moment where they have gotten very granular on defining their why they're waking up every day, going in, doing what they do, the value proposition that they're offering a recruit. But he said, hey, like, man, I can't believe this. I'm not doing this for my current team. And he's been in the business a long time, does a really good job. But at the level that he is pouring into his team now, it is granular. I mean, he's meeting with 3 to 5 of his team members. He's got a region, 3 to 5 of his team members every 2 or 3 times a week. He's going through like, this is how you build a list, not taking anything for granted, making no assumptions that anybody knows anything about what they're talking about or what they're doing day to day. And he is showing them how to engage in activities, what these activities should look like. And so, you got a loan officer that says, hey, I want to close 15 million last year. I want to make 20 million. I want to close 20 million this year. Okay, great. So backs down. And a lot of people, and I see this a lot, right? Like people are like, I want to take 7, I need to take 7 loan applications this month, or whatever it is, 17. And so they look at it and say, well, therefore I need to take, if I got 3 to 1, I need to take 60 credit reports, right?
Yeah.
And so they start measuring and tracking this data, and they wake up in the morning like, am I on track? Am I on track? The thing is, that's great. You need to measure, track, and report in order to know if you're going to hit your target. But the thing that loan officers wake up and do in our industry is like, you wake up and you don't say, I'm going to go close 3 loans today. I'm going to go pull 3 apps today. I'm going to take 3 credit reports today. What you wake up and say is, I'm going to go do a lunch and learn. I'm going to go call 2 real estate agents and set up appointments for next week. I'm going to host a happy hour. I'm going to go meet with my real estate agent and plan out next calendar month on what those open houses look like, right? These are activities. And then you push that forward. How many activities, and tracking them so important, right? Because if you know what activities are generating the credits and the applications, then you know which activities to pour more into. And coming now, circle back to this leader that I'm representing or that I'm talking about. And by the way, I've worked with some amazing, as you have, leaders at previous companies. It just so happens this guy is one of the best. He is doing such a great job, and he has no idea. And I'm telling him, I'm like, I'm not going to say his name. I'm like, dude, you're killing it. You have no idea. People don't do this. They're not executing at this level. And his team on this call, he's inviting me to a bunch of the things, like where he's like walking people through, like, this is how you do this. This is how you execute. And he was like, I won't use her name. Sally. I'll call her Sally. Member on his team. He's like, Sally, you started 5 months ago. Wouldn't it have been awesome? How much further along in your growth and development, just 5 months, would this have made a difference to you? And she was like, yeah, this is incredible. It's awesome. And people are hungry for this. I was on the phone with one of our leaders in the Pacific Northwest earlier today, and we were going through, his goals, what he wants to accomplish, his vision, and I'm getting, kind of talking about, okay, what about this leader that reports to you? What about this leader? How's so-and-so doing this, running this Keller Williams, this string of Keller Williams offices? And he said, she is so hungry. Like, she wants to grow her business. And we were talking about, like, different aspects of her growth and what she's doing. But people want it. Like, people, for the most part, people want to grow. Now, whether or not they're willing, they want it theoretically. Whether or not they're willing to do the work, that's a different thing. But
I want to have 6-pack abs, but I also want to eat Oreos and pizza sometimes and have a burger. So yeah, it's tough. It's a big difference.
It is, and we could dive so we could go in so many different directions right now. Motivation, like what motivates you and what that looks like, but his leader, the guy. So he's an RVP, and he's got a guy that helps manage and oversee this particular loan officer that I just referenced. And we were talking about his strengths and the areas that he needs to work on in order to help this loan officer invest in herself, help her grow, help her understand what she needs to do. And by the way, there is also the self-selection process, right? That loan officers need to struggle with. And you might be a great example here. I don't know.
Go for it.
The red phone, green phone.
Right. I'm picking up the fucking green phone.
I know you are. And the thing is, there's so many originators I see in this business. They're like, I want that title. Give me that title. It's like, titles don't pay the bills. You can't deposit a title. It's like, I know that, and I was walking somebody through a conversation the other day, and I'm rambling.
Go. No, it's perfect. It's perfect.
Okay, I'll just keep going. I was talking to somebody the other day, and we were talking about like this originator, and they want to. Oh, I know what it is. Yeah. They wanted to come on board, and they wanted to be a branch manager. We hired him. Great a kid, 22 million. Been in the business like 3 years. Like just
killing it.
Dude, crushing it. And, but he wanted a branch manager title. And I was talking to the leader. He's like, yeah, it's not a big deal. I was like, it is a big deal. It is a big deal. Because what this kid wanted to do was come in and originate and be a branch manager and hire a bunch of people, or start hiring, going after. It's like, I'll support him in that. I'll love him for doing that. Like we want that. But does he understand that? I'm glad we started off with a green phone, red phone. It's a great analogy, right? Does he understand that if that red phone rings and they're ringing at the same time, like it's going to take away from the green phone business, which is putting money in his pocket right now in one of the roughest times that we've gone through in the industry. Yeah. Like this was a December hire, right? And I said, the other thing is there are going to be responsibilities associated with the branch manager title. We're not just giving the title to him. So if he wants this title, great. He's going to be expected to grow. That means recruit. That means pour into his craft. He's going to be expected to, like I'm doing a podcast debrief where we listen to a podcast on recruiting, and then all of the team that's in charge of recruiting, we all talk about it. Mm-hmm. And we take action steps the next week on what we've learned. The recruiting mastermind. I have a monthly. This was actually Fitzer's idea. Yeah, great idea. Monthly recruiting mastermind. Just conversation with all of the RVPs that are in charge of recruiting. He's going to be expected to attend that. There's going to be accountability and responsibilities for and by the way, is not working on your business, not answering the green phone, but sourcing, identifying, engaging, making telephone calls, going out, breakfast, lunch, dinner, happy hours with other loan officers, because that's part of growing your business. So now at the point where he has those, where he's willing, which is not where I was going with that. Let me finish that thought. And I said, and to do all that, probably going to take about 50% of his business. 50% of his time. So if he's ready to commit to 50% of his time, which is going to be 50% of his $22 million, right? His income that he needs right now in his young married life, then great. I am all for it, and I am his biggest cheerleader, and we will pour into this kid. But he needs to understand that that's 50% of his income that's not going to be replaced, because leadership, growth, investing into your business is a long-term play.
Yeah.
It's not a short-term play. And, an override of 10 basis points as a branch manager, or 20 or whatever it's going to be, is not going to replace one single loan
right
for a long time if you got nothing.
Yeah.
So he needs to ask himself, is he ready to take a 50% haircut in his income in order to grow a branch that doesn't exist right now? And the kid was, and the leader talked to him and was like, that's a really good point. And the kid was like, you're right. I'm not ready to take a haircut. And what's great about this, right, is that we also set the stage for, but we want you to. Like, we would love for you to do this. And when you're ready. So if you hire somebody, fantastic. Sales manager, like, you can lead them if you hire them. If you're ready to answer that phone when they call, red phone, as long as it doesn't interfere with the, but it may interfere with the green phone. And so he loved the fact that we were open and we want him to grow. We're willing to invest into him if that's the path that he chooses. But he self-selected. He made the decision. We didn't tell him no. We just told him, like, what's going to be required.
Reality check.
Yeah.
And dude, having you explain that all, I'm kind of giggling over here, because this is what I love about you as a leader in the mortgage space, because the average scenario is, oh, hey, Scott, you're a top producer. Okay, cool. Now you get the corner office and we're going to put 4 loan officers underneath you and you're going to get 10 basis points on them. And you're like, okay, yeah, but the 4 loan officers you're putting underneath me funded $1.5 million last month. And that comes out to $1,500. My average loan is $600,000. Carry the 1, $6,000 divide by pi. I'm losing $4,500 by being a manager every time I lose a loan because I have to go structure. Just squeeze it. Edit. Yeah. For those listening and not watching, I'm trying to teach him how to use this fancy lighter that I have. So he's not squeezing me. Don't worry, your wife is safe. He's squeezing the lighter. But so they put you in the corner office. They give you this promise of making an override, and what you find is instead of rising to the occasion, we fall to the level of our training. And as a individual producer who's like, eat what I kill, fully commissioned, run, gun, I don't have any fucking training as a leader or a manager. Yeah, maybe I read a couple Simon Sinek books or whatever, but like, I was never formally trained as a leader. And I think where the mortgage industry has got this totally wrong and totally backwards and damaged their own situation in the, we'll call it in the independent mortgage bank space, is they've done this over and over and over again because it's a cost saving tool for corporate, right? It's like, well, Scott's making several $100,000 off of his mortgage production. We'll kind of trick him with this 10 basis point override and turn him into a branch manager leader. But it's like, no, you would be better served by hiring a real non-producing manager and watch them grow. Our friend Chad Coaster grew from 0 to $1 billion in mortgage production over 5 years because he only had to focus on being a leader, being a recruiter, building relationships. If he was trying to go out there and hustle his own business, not only would he be in competition with his own people, he would have no time to do the leaders eat last, referencing that Simon Sinek book, and like pouring into people and helping them with their goals and break down what their activities are. So like everything you just described, it really encapsulates what I love about you as a person. And so I just, I would say, one, what's the cautionary tale of that loan officer who does say, okay, I'm in, I want to be a branch manager, and they have not conceptualized what they're giving up on their own personal income? And then what is the training and the opportunity for producing, or we'll go with producing branch managers? Like what are the resources that they have to get trained if they don't have a Clay Duncan?
Yeah. Who goes to school? I think I'm going to tackle the last part first.
Yeah.
Just because it's like, who goes to school and says, or who wakes up and says, hey, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? Right. Right. I want to be in the mortgage business. Yeah. Baby, I'm going to be a loan officer. Let's go. Nobody. So, we had a RVP summit recently, and
just for reference, for the people that don't know, what's an RVP?
It's a regional vice president.
And how many?
So it's a regional. Right?
How many people are they managing?
It varies, greatly varies within our organization. It could be, it could be 50, and it could be 10. Okay, it depends on kind of the size. So, it really kind of dates back historically, and how we're a 23-year-old company that's really been based out of St. Louis, Missouri, and really solely owned by one guy until he sold 100% of the company to the employees.
I circled that because I want to come back around to USA Mortgage being employee owned. But
super interesting.
What are the resources for these people when they're like, okay, I believe it. I want to pick up the red phone and I want to pour into other people instead of my own business. How do they conceptualize that? How do they come to grips with it? And then what the fuck is the training that they get?
Yeah. Unfortunately, in our industry, there's. Are you aware of a branch manager training?
No, there's none.
That's right. Like you just nailed it, and I'm not either. There's leadership training,
but not really. Not even in the mortgage space.
No. Yeah, that's a good point. I just signed up for leadership training, with Jesse Itzler, right? Amazing, by the way. But in the mortgage space, like I'm not aware of that. It's mostly company generated, company performed, and it's only if the company is, kind of has that platform. Now, there are companies that have internal coaches. Right. Our previous company that we worked at together had like some of that training.
Yeah. Shout out to Bill Hart. I still love that guy.
Love Bill Hart. Yeah. Awesome. And those are very few and far between. There's not a lot of companies that have internal coaching, because and rightly so, in terms of the companies, the way that they look at it is, hey, we're paying all these branch managers out there. We're paying the regionals out there for the leadership and the growth and development of their teams. They're the ones that are responsible. Right. And they should be responsible. But now, going back to this regional summit that we had our leaders in the room. And one of the gals, great leader, her name's Paige. She mentioned she just brought it up. She was talking about like, hey, we need more resources for training our branch managers. And her words were, exactly where I'm going to go with this. Her words were, in this mortgage industry, we just take our biggest producers and say, congratulations, you're promoted because you clearly know how to do this. You clearly know how to lead and manage other people because you're closing so much business.
No clue.
It's like, no. And she's absolutely right?
Yeah, I know how to close loans and build relationships with realtors. I don't know how to convey that skill set to another human being. No. Well, let me take that back. I can convey that to other human beings because I'm a coach and I do that. But it took, probably $250,000 of investment in myself, masterminds, getting training from John Berghoff and Hal Elrod and John Verman and all these guys that are like in the leadership space. So I had to invest in myself to figure that out. And do you mind if I tell you a quick story? Yeah. So this is we were not working together. This was still when I was at Prospect Mortgage. And this is the only time I've been formally written up as a loan officer. And shout out to my buddy Shada, who's now a top producing loan officer at Wells Fargo. She's great. Love her to death. But she made me come to grips with why I hate being a manager. And Shada had this very frustrating tendency about her, is she would walk into the room and interrupt me from what I was doing. And she'd be like, Scott, I've got this situation. A, B, C, D, E, F, G is going wrong in structuring this loan. How do I talk to the realtor? And like, what should I do? And I'm like, all right, Shada, sit down. Like we're in this mentorship program. You're a brand new loan officer. They had assigned me like 3 mentees that I was going to train and manage. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. This is very early in my career. And we would go through a whole half-hour spiel, and I'd be like, okay, this is what you want to do. This is what you want to say. This is how you're going to structure it. This is how you're going to save the deal. This is maybe how you have to diddle in the gray area a little bit. I don't know. And then she'd be like, great, man. So let me tell you what I'm going to do. And this would happen over and over and over again. And finally, one day I was like at my wit's end. I like had lost we lost a deal, and I was probably fighting with my ex-wife. I don't know what was going on. And she walked in and went into this spiel. Hey, so here's the problem. How do you, and I just lost it. And I was like, Shada, I'm like, get the fuck out of my office. I'm like, because you have 2 fucking options from now on. You were able to walk in here and ask me my opinion on how to do something and then execute on how I just told you to do it, because I've been doing this for 12 years and you've been doing this for 12 days. Or it's cool. Go do what you were going to do anyway. And then when it blows up in your face, it's my job to right the ship, make the realtor call, write the check to fix the loan, whatever we got to do. Like, that's my job as your leader. But what you cannot fucking do is come in here and ask for my advice and then do your own thing anyway, because now you've wasted a precious half hour of my time. And I probably screamed at her, and it's probably one of the few times I've used cuss words towards a female in this business. And she like left crying. And my assistant was like, she was so mad because she heard it every day. She's like, do you want me to go beat her up for you, Scott? I know you can't lay a hand on that woman, but like, I am so sick of hearing her bullshit. And like, God bless Shada, she's turned into an amazing, well-rounded loan officer, and she's a great person. But that, as I thought back after I left New American, and I was sick of managing 40 people there, when I thought back to it, I was like, oh yeah, this like exchange of like, I was not given the leadership tools prior to inheriting a bunch of people I was supposed to lead. So I didn't know how to handle the situation tactfully. And there's this thing in the loan space where like people kind of just want a sounding board, but then they're going to go do it their own way anyway. So it's like, go do it your own way. When you screw up and we got to do a $5,000 pricing concession, oh, well, that's just a cost of doing business. Yeah. And it's that thing where like, I didn't have the skill set. Loan officers are all alpha males and alpha females that are going to do what they want to do anyway if they're successful. It's just such a mismatch of like skills. But they're like, oh, Scott did $50 million in a down market. He must know how to teach other people to do that. I'm like, I don't know shit about shit. Yeah. And so I went and spent $250,000 on my own training and coaching to figure out how to do that stuff. Yeah. And I don't know where I was going with that, but I feel like that story kind of exemplifies the mismatch between, you know, low-level leaders in the mortgage space and how loan officers act.
Yeah, you know, you've hit the nerve of this, though. You know, I don't know. Somebody says it out there. Leaders are not born, right? And in this business, you really have to invest in yourself. Consolidated coaching. Yep. Right. You know, and here's the thing, whether or not it's in this business. And the truth is, actually, I'm going to say a lot of the things as a leader that you need in order to lead effectively, manage effectively, lead effectively, are not things that you learn as an originator. They're not at all. Actually, not at all.
Yeah, they're probably the opposite. Because if you're a top producing realtor or a top producing, realtor or loan officer, you're probably pretty selfish.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what's, just so many conversations, right? The things that you need are, and hopefully you get to learn from other people. It is experience in the seat. And just as importantly, it's actually more than experience in the seat. So I had 10 years experience in the seat, leading my own company here, you know, in the state of Nevada, right? And pretty successful, really successful, actually. And I got to tell you, one of the things, you know, I served at the pleasure of Casey Crawford.
Our previous company.
Yes. Yeah. And one of the things that I learned there is how much it wasn't about time in the seat. I had a decade in the seat. I thought I knew so much. I didn't know jack crap. I knew so little. I wish that I could go back today, knowing what I know now, and be in that seat again. Oh my gosh, it's almost embarrassing now that I look back on my leadership. You know, one of the first books that I read that I wasn't forced to read, you know, in college, out of college, was I hired a gal by the name of Chandel Slayton. She was the first coach I ever paid my own money to. She's a leadership coach. She wasn't a mortgage coach, and I hired her when I owned my company here in Nevada. And she said, "You really need to read this book. It is a staple in my library." I've had 2 people in the past 10 days that I've recommended this book to, and both of them have come back and said, it's already changed my life. It's changed my relationship with my wife. I'm telling you, it's amazing. It's called Leadership and Self-Deception by the Arbinger Institute. And it was the first book that was recommended to me by a coach, a real coach of leadership that knew what they were talking about, had me read. And it is that investment into myself that was the first catalyst. And by the way, I read 1 book that year. Like, that was it. And then it's just gradually like, I've freaking 5 books this year so far.
Right. We're like 20 days into the year, man. You're a beast.
Stupid, right? But I love it. And the thing is that investment insurance, there are things that you don't know in the mortgage industry you should know, or in a leadership position as a branch manager or any leader. It's how to have crucial conversations. Another great book. I've read 2 books on having the tough conversations. Right. How do you engage in that? How do you frame it? How do you start it? What's the outcome that you're looking for? And so, these are things that come over time. And by the way, this is really important. It's not just reading the book. It's reading or listening, audible. I do both. And it's implementing. You got to take action. That's something, you know this. I've complimented you so many years. Like, we're in the little, my living room, and, you're like, I'm going to write a book. And I'm like, I'm going to write a book. Well, guess who's written a book? Friggin' Scott Groves, right?
That might be the first time I ever said it out loud, when you had me and Tony and Chad, and you brought in that emotional intelligence coach. I think it was a she. No. See. I remember the event so well at your house in Laguna Beach, but I don't remember the coach. I remember the connection I made with you and Chad and Tony, which probably says a world about the coach, because whoever it is you brought in, it wasn't about her or him. It was about making us closer. And I think that's the first time I ever said out loud that I was going to write a book. And I remember you said, "Yeah, I'm going to write a book too." and then
actually, I've got it's in my notes. I've started it.
This is like 10 years later.
Oh, I know.
You started the book.
I started it like 2 years ago, and I've written 100 pages.
What's great is, like, a year later when I came out with the book, you looked at me and you're like, "Oh, you really wrote a fucking book?"
I was so mad. I was like, son of a bitch. You wrote a book?
No, but it's funny. I think of my buddy, I'll just call him by his first name only, Matt. He's an investment banker, wildly successful guy who's now in charge of all of Asia. He's out of Singapore. Basically, if any Asian company wants to buy a U.S. company, he works for one of the major investment banks. Like, they're getting an at-bat at every one of those mergers and acquisitions deals. And he goes, "Scott, your guys' industry is so ass backwards." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, at our company, like, you come out of business school, and then you probably other side of the lighter. You're like, this lighter is really vexing me." He's like, "You come out of business school, you probably get an MBA. And then he goes, you start as an analyst and you learn how to do the grunt work. And then you become a senior analyst. And then you manage one new hire below you. And then you manage 3 people below you. And then you go to like a leadership training course. And then you manage a team. And so there's this progression of where you learn to manage people slowly. And now it's funny because in the investment banker world, everybody knows, Clay's a 23-year. Like, he's been out of college and at this investment bank or in the game for 23 years. Oh, Scott, he's like a 5-year analyst. He's only been in the game for 5 years. And then it's not till you get to like 20 years in where you know everything and you can manage people. They're like, now you're ready to go be a salesperson. You know enough about the game to go sit down with the board of directors at this giant company who's thinking about buying this other giant company, and you have the skill set to lead and manage and analyze and be a salesperson. And in the mortgage business, it's like, let's find all the salespeople who can make it on day one, and then we'll try to pretend to find some people out of that stock of people who are leaders. And I can tell you, it is way easier to teach sales skills to somebody who's already core competent in their industry than it is to teach leadership skills to salespeople. Because salespeople are not naturally born leaders. They're definitely made. So I mean, I don't know what the point was there, but it's like, it seems like sales organizations probably have a forever problem with this by creating good leaders that add value, so that when we have upheaval in the mortgage business and there's this other channel of people speaking, talking shit about leaders, I've always tried to stand up and be like, dude, I've had some good leaders and I've had some bad leaders. And I can tell you, the times that I've been crushing it in my career has been because I was surrounded by good leaders.
Yeah.
Hey, this quick interruption is brought to you by me, Scott Groves, the host of the On the Edge podcast. This podcast is brought to you by me. I'm a loan officer who can help you with a mortgage in all 50 states across the United States. I also coach loan officers. So if you are a home buyer who's looking to get a mortgage, if you're a realtor who's looking to partner with an awesome loan officer, or if you're a loan officer looking for coaching, get in touch with me. It's those sources of revenue that allow us to produce this podcast and get out a new episode to you every week for the last couple of years. So if you're looking for a mortgage, if you're looking for a mortgage lender to partner with, or you're looking for a mortgage coach, I'm your guy. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming.
So here's an interesting question. If somebody is in a leadership role at a sales organization, or they have aspirations of being a leader, what are the qualities that you look for? Like, obviously this kid who raised his hand, he's like, I want to be a branch manager. And you didn't give him an ultimatum, but you just gave him a reality check. When you're trying to identify leaders and you're like, oh, we really want to grow our company, or we really want to grow a region in the Sun Belt or the Scottsdale, Arizona, Southwest area. What do you try to look for in a leader? Are you trying to like poach other good leaders from other companies? Are you trying to grow from within? Is there certain skill sets, or the DISC test, or the Myers-Briggs test? Like, it just seems like such a crapshoot.
Yeah.
I think about sales organizations. A guy I really look up to, Joe Parisi. He was just a top producer at Prospect Mortgage when I was there. He and I are like diametrically different. Like, he's very much an accountant, comes in, sits at his desk, brown paper bag lunch. He's not a very gregarious guy. I mean, he's pleasant, but he's just super core competent. He's like more like an accountant than like and I've never matched his production, right? Because he's just like stay the course, steady Eddie, consistent. He maybe does one big realtor event a year for they'll go to a Kings game, or they'll do like a fantasy football league together. Like, if you were to evaluate the two of us independently, you'd be like, there's no way these two people would be successful at the same thing, which is slinging mortgages. So I imagine in leadership, there's a wide array of people that could be successful. What do you look for as you've been recruiting and developing leaders for almost 2 decades now? What are some of the telltale signs, or what are you looking for?
Yeah. So instead of talking generically, which was true back then. Instead of talking generically, let me be specific, right? Yes, it's always better to, if you can hire someone like, I was going to reference someone we just brought in that's got an unreasonable number of years under his belt as a leader of many, many men and women, right? Like, really smart, really strong, able to have tough conversations, able to deliver messages with context, and really drive the business and engage with folks to build the business. But to answer your question, what do you look for? I believe, and this you're gonna know exactly what this is. I'm not the one that came up with this, but I love the analogy: humble, hungry, smart. Humble, hungry, smart. And let's pick on our buddy, Mr. Chad Coaster. this guy, I gotta tell this story. I've got so many stories, but I'm working with our previous company, helping to build out the West Coast. You know, we had closed, $3.7 billion that year.
And like one loan came from California.
Yeah. Just opening up California, right? And nobody knows who we are. And I'm talking. Matter of fact, it's around the same time hired Daryl Meddings and Ron Kessner, and which were proven leaders, right, in the industry. Went on to be great regionals for us, but along the way stumbles in some. One of our recruiters, or I don't even know where I found this kid, but he replied to some kind of message and. I was like, hey, you want to talk to this kid named Chad Coaster? Get on the phone, talk to him. And I was like, hey, I'm actually headed to our Arizona was the place where we took everyone that we were in conversation with that, was looking at it. So we wanted to introduce them to some of our leadership and ops and show them the operation. So I'm like, hey, I'm headed there already to meet someone. Would you like to meet me? This kid he was getting out of the mortgage business. He drops everything, pulls up with his helmet, rode a motorcycle, and doesn't have anything, like doesn't have a following, didn't have any mortgage business, but man, this kid was hungry. He's incredibly smart, very humor, like had that, Chad's it factor is he could make people laugh, right? He was very humorous, which I think is important to have that it factor. But it's different for everybody, right? But humble, hungry, very humble, but there's not, Chad was very smart, wanted it, very hungry. And most people that know Chad would not say like that he's humble, right? But he was. And he is like, he does have humility, but his confidence, right? He's so confident that it comes out sometimes as not humble.
Right.
And there's a difference between those two things.
Right.
And so, listen, and the thing that I loved about Chad is, oh my gosh, the guy, he was so like absorbent of everything. And he would ask me a question and he listened and he implemented. Matter of fact, he just sent me a text of a building. And so he was running a region, helping to launch. Yeah, I think maybe this was a little bit later. He had a couple of people. This was before you. Had a couple of people. He's like, I'm going to build this. I'm going to hire this office. I'm going to get this office space, 3,000 square feet in this huge building. Rent was like, forget about what it was. It cost money. We had 2 people on our team.
Right.
And he got me up there. He was so excited. And I said, Chad, I was like, listen, man, like, most businesses most companies go out of business because they spend too much money. And man, this is really expensive. And you have 2 people on your team. Go build your team.
And by the way, I know who those 2 people were.
Yeah.
Neither of them were doing loans.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And they were, here's the thing. Chad came back and he sent me a picture of it because it was one of the landmines that I've been through. I've opened offices and I failed miserably. And this is experience, right? He listened to me. I said, Chad, at the end of the day, man, I don't know that this is in your best interest because one of the things that you're graded on here is profitability. And what you don't want to do is start yourself off in the hole. And so he snapped that picture literally and sent it to me. I could probably pull it up. It's one of the most recent, but we always laugh about it. It's that thing that he was very not impressionable, but coachable.
Coachable, yeah.
And he was humble, he was hungry, he was smart, and he was willing to listen, and he was willing to make tough decisions that that were the right decisions, but in careful consultation with folks that have already been down that path, already been there, already done that. And, this is one of the things that I was actually on the phone 2 hours ago with a leader, and we were talking about this particular guy that reports to him that, and I'll use his words, like he kind of, one of his problems, we're talking about how we can help our team, right? One of his problems is he knows everything. It's like, that's sad, right?
Yeah.
And my question to him was, have you talked to him about it? Does he know it? He may not know it. He probably doesn't. And a great leader is going to identify the things that are holding them, your mentors, the guys that you're leading, back. What is holding them back? In one situation, it was the kid just needed, he's humble, hungry, smart. In the conversation with this guy, we were talking about two different people. In one situation, he's got a leader, humble, hungry, smart, and wants to grow, wants to lead, just needs to know what steps to take, right? The other situation, a seasoned leader in the business, but knows everything. Who wants to work for a know-it-all?
Right.
Nobody wants that. And the thing is, I know this guy. He is super nice. Like he's so nice. And I'll guarantee you that this leader that I was talking to, the regional, he's going to have a conversation and he's going to do a great job at it. He's going to bring EQ, right, into the conversation and help him become present and aware that he's you can only grow. The first step to AA, right?
Right.
Admit
you have a problem.
Admit you have a problem, right? And this will improve him. This will help him be a better leader to his team, because the minute you start going backwards, the minute you start dying is the minute you stop growing.
Yeah.
Right. Got to constantly be growing, and to grow, you got to be open-minded, and you got to know that you don't know it all, and. That's why I invest so heavily on a personal level. I signed up for Jesse Itzler's coaching, because I want to give my team more. And one of the things that I'm learning right now is massive action, just taking massive action, especially on the things that are hard. Like do the hard thing. I told you my one word for the year, social. And by the way, that's been so hard for me in the past to say. Like, because I'm like, people are going to hold me to it. And I hope they do. Right? I got goals and I want to accomplish those goals, but I got to take action. My one word, social, my one thing, do the hard things first. Yeah. This year, I'm doing the hard things first. Saturday morning, this past week, I woke up, I went into my office and I'm like, what's the hardest thing? What's the thing that's I don't want to do? And I did that first.
So, you'll know this. If you're leaving a voicemail, what digit do you push to delete the voicemail and re-record it? What number is it? Pound. Okay. So, all right. This is the best story about Clay Duncan ever.
Did I tell you this?
You told me this, yeah.
Did I tell you this in confidence?
Yes. Yeah, you told me this in confidence. I can tell it now. So we were at a coaching event, and I'm going to violate confidence because you're here. And Clay's like, yeah, man, sometimes I go for a walk with my dog, and, I'll re-record a voicemail 13 times. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? You leave 13 voicemails? He's like, no. What I'll do is I'll leave the voicemail, but I'll feel like it wasn't good enough. So I'll hit pound and it will delete the voicemail. It'll say, if you'd like to leave a voicemail, and I'll leave it again. And I'm like, no, that wasn't right. And then I hit pound again. And then I'll re-record the voicemail, 9, 10, 13 times before I feel it's the right voicemail to leave. And I'm like, are you a fucking serial killer? I'm like, who even knows how to do that, much less actually does that? So when you said, I'm going to do social media, I'm like, yeah, the method of social media is like point, shoot, and post it. It doesn't have to be perfect. So when you told me you were going to start really leaning into social, I'm like, oh God, this poor guy is going to take 3 hours to record a 60-second reel because he's going to be like, I don't like it. Redo it. I don't like it. Redo it. So where are you on, a little coaching to you? Yeah. Where are you on the having to get it perfect?
Way better.
Okay.
And it's still hard. As a matter of fact, I was on I'm in a book club too, or, we read a book and we talk about it. And literally today was one of our sessions, and this gal was like, she was complimenting me on my social media. Actually, I've gotten several compliments, right? Which makes me feel good. Actually, I got to tell you something. I'll come back. I got the best compliment last night at dinner with one of the guys that I've known for 20 years. He's in a business group that I'm in. And you know what he said? He was like, and several people, like, Clay, I love what you're doing. You're out there, man. You're making it happen. And he goes, yeah, well, my wife, she's like, she showed me the thing. She's like, I gotta delete this. I'm going to have to block Clay. Like, I've known this woman too for 20 years. I'm going to have to block Clay. And I was like, man, that is the nicest. That is, you know why? Because she's not my audience, and it's okay. I'm really good with that. It means
that would have hurt you years ago.
Oh, 100%, 1,000%. And it means that, I'm apparently I'm showing up in people's feed, and she's not my audience. It's okay. She's a stay-at-home mom. By the way, stay-at-home moms might be my audience. I don't know. I don't even know where this is going. I am curating content. Found out way easier than I ever thought it did. Because I got so much crap that I'm consuming. It's like, just talk about it, right?
Right.
And there's going to be a 1%. And maybe that 1% is the people. And if it's 3 people, great. If it's 30 people, great. If it's 300, great. But the people that are commenting and responding back to me, it's like they're interested in the same crap that I'm interested in. And that's fun. Like, that's exciting. Man, so much respect for what you're doing here. I couldn't imagine doing a podcast.
It's so much fun, man.
I know.
Since I told an embarrassing story about you and he's not here to defend himself, I'm going to tell an embarrassing story about Chad. But this is public. This is public knowledge, so I'm not violating your trust here. Chad told me that whole, sometimes his confidence can come across as not humble or a little bit of ego. Chad told me one time, Chad's a good looking guy, right? He looks like, for those that don't know Chad, he looks like Jeremy Renner or Chris Pine, the guy that played the new Captain Kirk. He's good looking, blonde guy. You said that weird haircut looked like his flock of seagulls. And Chad told me, he's like, yeah, man, I just have a face that people love to punch. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. He's like, I'll just be standing around at a bar and some dude will punch me. And I'll be like, no way. This cannot be true. You're you had a couple drinks and you were mouthing off, or you hit on some guy's girlfriend. That's why you're getting punched. He's like, no, Scott. He's like, I just have this air about me where people think I'm egotistical. And Chad's maybe one of the most naturally strong guys I've ever met.
Ridiculous.
And he goes, yeah, people will just punch me. I'm like, shut the fuck up, right? So that was 2 years. And then 2 years later, we're at a mortgage event. We're at a club in Vegas, and it's just the loan officers and the wives of those loan officers are on the dance floor kind of having a good time. And nobody's doing anything inappropriate. Nobody's mouthed off to anybody. Nobody's drunk, nothing. And we're on a dance floor at the MGM. And some dude just comes out of nowhere and fucking drills Chad right in the face. And he hit him so hard that if Chad wasn't as strong as he was, we would have been going to the hospital. And luckily we had a private table. So all of a sudden Al said, shout out Al said, comes over, throws that dude to the ground. He's ready to beat the shit out of him. Some bouncer saw this, comes out of nowhere, throws this guy out of the club. And I go up to Chad and I'm like, you really do have a face that people like to punch. He's like, I told you, bro, this happens at least once a year that some dude just comes out of the blue and I remind them of the guy that stole their girlfriend or something. And they just randomly drill me in the face. And I'm like, man, that is the tough part about being super good looking. I've never just randomly gotten punched in the face because somebody didn't like my style.
Listen, I don't know. I feel like we can't do it without Chad being here and Chad's consent. But dude, can you do a triple thing here and let's just tell Chad stories? I have so many. They're so good. Oh my gosh.
All right. Yeah. We're going to bring him in. We'll do a 3-way conversation. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get back to leadership for the people that have lost track.
So we were going, because I kind of got distracted. Oh
yeah. What do you look for in a leader?
Yeah. Because Chad shows up, right. And he's humble, hungry, smart, confidence oozing. And of course, that only got stronger and more pronounced the better he got at his position. And listen, man, that kid is smart. Like, oh my gosh. He is the best recruiter that I've ever worked with. And like, I'm telling you, he is incredible because he takes it to another dimension, another level, and just able to articulate, the message really, really well. But with that said, those are the things that you really want. Now, what's interesting is that there's this other guy, like, and I'll just say his name's Bill, right? He works with us, and he has led. He's been a national at another company. He has been regional. He worked his way up, and he is really, really smart. And you know what I really love about this guy? He has so many. He has, if he was a general, like he would just be decked out in all the badges, right? He's been there. He's been in the war. He's been in the trenches, and he's the first one to sign up for coaching, right? Like he's the first one to say, "Hey, let's like what is your recommendation here? How should I move forward with this?" And and if I know the answer, I help. If I don't, I'm like, man, that's a great question, right? Let's go get the answer. But those are the qualities of a great leader is knowing that you don't know it all. And it's okay. It's okay not to know it all. And just, and he's humble and he's hungry. Oh, this guy, crazy hungry, very smart. But like, he's one of those, he wants to win the race, right?
Yeah.
You get in competition, he wants to crush everybody. Not at the detriment of someone though, right? And so like kind of that ethos, he's got the right ethos about him as well.
So that's kind of so many questions. That brings up something about our industry. And it took me a long time to come to grips with this, is that unlike Apple, where, they sold everybody an iPhone and they keep selling everybody an iPhone, but they're like, oh, you know what? iPhones aren't enough. We should make an iPad. And then when they were out of kind of like growth in iPads, they're like, we should make AirPods, and then we should make an iWatch. Loan officers, we don't make anything. We don't create transactions. So the reality is, I've got 11 coaching members in our house right now having dinner. And some of them are licensed in California and Nevada, where I do most 90% of my business. For every loan that I get in Los Angeles County, California, is a loan one of them doesn't get. Because we don't create transactions. Yeah. We can do a great job. We can add great service value. And in that 2 years when rates were super low, we could create our own business because we could create refinance opportunities. But there is this weird like fine line of like, yeah, you want that guy to be hungry and not at the detriment of other people. But the reality is it is at the detriment of other people, because for every loan that his guy in St. Louis or wherever he is gets out of the pool of available loans, he is in fact taking a loan out of somebody else's pocket. So it's like balancing this, you eat what you kill and there's only a certain amount of food, and like, hey, we can all be humble and polite to other people in the industry. It's a real balancing act for leaders, right? Because it's like you want USA Mortgage to win. And by definition, if you guys win, some other company loses. Plain and simple. Because there's a finite number of transactions. Us loan officers can't go out and create new mortgage or new purchase transactions to sell a loan to. And it's a really weird dichotomy. And I don't know what the coaching lesson is in that, but I'm like trying to parse that out in my brain of like, no, this is a zero-sum game. If in 2024, there's going to be 4,652,117 transactions, that's all there's going to be. Like loan officers can't make properties come on the market. We can't create new construction builds. And so it's weird because it's like, yeah, every loan that my company gets, guess what? Clay, your company doesn't get that. So if I win, you do lose. But also we can still be friends.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Now, we were talking about leadership, not necessarily the loans, right? And
same thing. For every loan officer Synergy One recruits, USA Mortgage does not recruit that loan officer.
So a couple things here. Number one, when we were talking about leadership, what I referenced was, playing unethically.
Right.
Okay. Like and not winning the game. Like, this Super Bowl, right? Coming up. It's like, there can only be one, right?
Right.
There is a winner, but there are other, just using that analogy, right? There are other, and I'm really talking off the top of my head here, but there are other teams that grew along the way, and they got something for that. They learned valuable lessons. They competed, and they'll take that and they'll use it in the future for the next game. Now, in our business, it is a commodity business. I had one of our originators reach out to me last week, and she said, Clay, like, I don't understand, like, what am I selling, right? And I was like, well, that's a really great question. She was like, and she used the word commodity. I love that, right? Selling a commodity. Everybody's got different rates, high, low. That changes. So what is it that you're selling? And my question to her was, tell me about yourself. Because you can get a commodity from any Joe Schmo on the street. You can get the loan from your local bank, your federal credit union, your broker, your lender, your depository. But the people. This is still one of the biggest purchases that people make in their life, and the folks that they know, like, trust, are going to do business with you because of you. And and this is kind of what I coached her on and through, was what people need to know is who they're doing business with. So how you get that message out, right, is really important. And that you get that message out is really important. You can do that by visiting the open house. You can do that by reaching out, sitting down, breaking bread with your business partners, your referral sources, primarily real estate agents, right? And then, of course, your borrower group. So, getting active in your Facebook or your TikTok or your Instagram or whatever social media platform, and just sharing. That's one of the things I'm exposing myself to the world, and it can be uncomfortable. My my pauses, my sniffles, whatever it is, like, it's me. It's still me. And if you come work for us, you're going to be working with me. If you do business, if you get a loan, I'm not licensed. If you get a loan from me, example, you're doing business with me. Here's the thing that you can expect from me. I'm going to be genuine. I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to have the hard conversations up front. If there's something that goes wrong in our transaction as a loan officer, like, it was super hard, super uncomfortable, but you can expect that I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to be there for you. And if I blow it, I'm going to own it. And like, that's one of the things I love about you. Like, just don't hold back. You are so direct, and people respect that. Like, they may not like the news, but man, when you deliver it and you're straightforward, they respect it, and they will give you more referral business because you're having those tough conversations. And so your brand is so important. And by the way, this is a great podcast. That was probably Tim Bohemes or something interviewing somebody. I think maybe it was one of those. I listen to a lot, and they were talking about, like, what is your brand? And look, your brand is who you are, your character, and everybody's got a brand. So you just got to get it out there. Yeah. And that is the thing that I kind of coached her around, right? Like, yes, it is a commodity. Everybody's got it. Your rate might be a little higher. Your rate might be a little lower. And by the way, it is possible that somebody will take a deal that is worse than yours. It happens all the time because they don't know who you are. They don't know who they're working with. And so you being able to deliver that value proposition of, this is the things that you can expect by working with me, is really important.
I love that.
Yeah.
Talk about how your brand as a leader has evolved over time. You know, I told the story about you like having to re-record the voicemail a bunch of times. How has your leadership brand evolved?
You know, I'm really embarrassed. Let me just start by saying this. I'm embarrassed about the bad job that I have performed in some ways for different folks that I've led in the past. You know, and you grow, you learn from that. My brand personally, I've gotten really good at listening, and I have put a lot of work into that. It didn't come naturally. You know, so much data behind this. Kids listening, and you know, it's like the number of years it would take adults to catch up with just a 5-year-old kid. And I still work on it. Like being intentional about conversations. How is my brand as a leader? I have worked on the skill sets. I was just trying to succinct this because I don't want to go into I could go down 10 different rabbit trails on things that I have worked on personally. But listening is probably one of the biggest that I've done, that I've grown and gotten way better at. I could give you so many examples of where I've jumped the gun. I'm like, they weren't even asking that question. I just blew it because I didn't listen.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't ask the follow-up question about clarification. Are you saying, right? And you know, I like to take it to go a step further. Like when I say I'm listening, like one of the biggest characteristics of a great leader is that they are a great listener. And because I know that, and I've worked hard on listening, I was trying to figure out last year, one of the things I worked on was improving my listening skills. And you know how I did that? I was like, okay, what's the way that I could be a better listener? I could learn to ask better questions. Ask powerful questions. I'm actually leading my business group through this book called Ask Powerful Questions. Taking one chapter every time we meet. We meet 7 times a year. Every time we meet, taking one. It's not a chapter. There's a framework around asking great questions, and there's 6 pillars. And the first pillar is intentional. The second pillar is rapport. And so, without going through the building blocks of asking great questions. But if I can ask better questions, then the information that I'm receiving, I can be a better listener in understanding like where they're coming from, what's important to them, and how to engage. Because, and you mentioned this, like, you know, the dichotomy of, you use that in a different analogy, but you reference like the CPA, right? That's kind of a leader, but he's great. There are so many different personality types. You can Myers-Briggs, DISC, you know. But at the end of the day, if you can understand how to engage with someone and meet them where they are, their love language, you know, and meet them in a way where they receive you in a way that where they open up. Man, like what a better wall to tear down, to be able to listen to people in a way that you can best help them, because that's the goal, right? How do I help this person that's in front of me? How do I help this loan officer, sell this commodity? How do I help this leader understand that they don't know it all, right? How do I help this leader understand that there's some key disciplines that they can work on in order to help their team? You know, it's just, it's just all connected.
It really is.
It's so exciting, man. Like, I love this stuff so much. It's just great.
It's so funny because when I first met you, you had way less on your plate, right? Because there wasn't a lot of loan officers in California, and there wasn't a lot going on.
No, I did. You know all the stuff I had on my plate? Stress.
Yeah, stress. Right.
so Ignacio Metcalf was the delivery of that. So, love you, brother.
But when I first met you, I feel like when I was thinking about your brand evolving, and the funny thing is, the person that had this criticism of you is going to be having dinner with us. And when I first met you, you had a lot less on your plate, so there was more time for you to listen. And to me, you were more Clay. And then as the plate gets more full, it's like, oh, I'm going through like the steps and the process, and I got a lot of stuff to deliver. And our buddy Cole, who's here, I just interviewed him because he started the company Fledge that I invested in. He's like, yeah, Clay really comes across as a guy who wants to care. But I think he's just going through the steps. And I'm like, no. I know Clay at a deep level. We've done some retreats together. We've had a lot of deep conversations. He's helped me with some stuff as far as it pertains to my ex-wife. Clay really cares. He's like, yeah, I don't know, man. He's got perfect teeth. He's good looking. He always comes in a good looking suit, and then he goes through the motions. And it's like, I think he really wants to care, but I don't know if he actually cares about me. And I'm like, no, trust me, he does. So the fact that you've worked on this skill set of asking better questions, which shows people how much you actually care when you're asking good questions, like, that's how I think your brand is kind of like dipped and evolved and whatnot, because I never saw you as the person. So when I heard that criticism, I'm like, no, Clay really cares. Like, at a very deep level, he really cares about your success. He's like, I don't know if I buy it. I think he just wants to care. And I'm like, no, he really cares. So, I heard something last week at this business conference I went to. Alex Hermosi, the big buff guy that's all over social media and stuff. Yeah. He did this thing, and he's like, yeah, most problems that a leader can solve is determining whether the person you're in front of, do they not know what to do, or do they not know what to prioritize? And I was like, oh, that's so brilliant, right? Because it's two very different coaching methods of like, oh, if you just don't know what to do, I'm going to be like your manager. I'm going to show you the blocking and the tackling and the strategic steps. But if you're a seasoned loan officer who's been around 20 years, which is most of the clients that I attract, where they're like, hey man, I've kind of seen my best years behind me, or there's this old dog that needs to learn some new tricks. I'm like, oh, you know what to do. You probably just don't know what to prioritize. So when you're helping run an organization as large as 300 loan officers, probably just as many support staff, USA Mortgage is employee owned, which brings a whole nother dynamic of positives and negatives. Like, how do you help people understand, like, okay, do you not know what to do? We can work on that. Or do you not know like what to prioritize? Because they feel the same, but they're very different.
Mm-hmm. They are. Is that a question?
It's a question. Like, how do you help people with that?
By asking great questions. I'm not being funny.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I had a compliment. I don't know if he meant it like that, but I'm also coaching with Richard Milligan. Right. And, we were talking about there's framework for asking questions to a candidate that we're interviewing as a part of identifying folks that we want to have come work with us. And the compliment was that I have a natural ability, like that my curiosity, right? It's a genuine curiosity. Like, you got to read that book, Ask Powerful Questions. It talks about this, and the truth is not natural. My curiosity is natural that I unleash, but asking great questions isn't natural, but you have to, in order to know the difference in what they need, it's as simple as asking questions around and digging in, like getting to the root of what's actually going on with them in their life, in their business. And it's just not complicated. It's not hard. And it does, because I put it all into action and I practice it every freaking day. Today, like, how many conversations I had just today on problem solving, helping other folks. Like, probably the biggest challenge that I ever have is talking with someone that doesn't,
Brevity?
that does, yeah. I have something to say to you later. Read between the fingers or something. It is cool. What does that mean?
Oh, that's our like, we've got a few minutes left because we try to keep these under 2 hours.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, is brevity. Yes, I definitely, I've gotten better at that. I've worked. This is a podcast. You asked me to talk. I'm talking.
I love it.
I love it too. This is great. This is fun. My first one. And it is, the biggest challenge is talking with someone that doesn't know what the challenge or problem that they're having is, or doesn't recognize it, doesn't see it for themselves, right?
So maybe they don't know what to do, but they don't know that they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah.
That's a tough conversation because most adults think they have it figured out, right? They're living a good life. They're paying their bills. They're raising their kids. They're successful at work. So like not knowing what they don't know, it's really tough.
Yeah.
What are some things that you've discovered that you don't know that you're working on?
Wow, that's a good. I haven't even thought about that. Aren't you supposed to like prep me with some pre-questions?
No, this is all off the cuff. It's our style.
Some things that I'm learning that I didn't know. Well, I would like to say that there are things in my growth on a leadership track that I didn't know them in the past. And the things that I don't know right now, I don't know what they are.
Right.
And that's the truth. I did not know that I had trouble landing the plane. I did not know that. And someone pointed that out. And it is Ignacio Metcalf. Land the plane, Clay. Land the plane. And I got better at landing the plane.
And you were talking about like landing the big recruits like you.
Oh, great. Good. Thank you for asking clarification question around that. No, what I'm referring to is that I have a point. And I take 7 different rabbit trails to explain in order to get to the point. So instead of me just answering your question, I want to explain all the ethos and all the background and why this is important for you to know. And instead of just telling you, like landing the plane. Now, there are times for that. There's occasions for that. But landing the plane was definitely one of them. Back when I owned my own company, I did not know about myself that I was very intimidating. And, which is one of the reasons in my little drop tomorrow on my pre-filmed, because doing these little things on Instagram, it's, everybody's got a superpower. I'll talk about it in a little thing, 90 seconds, right? That my superpower is my smile. It's disarming. It helps me not be so intimidating. And at least that's the story I tell myself.
Right.
And I get a lot of compliments. Thank you, Bill Hart, if you ever listen to this, which really, like, he told me so many times. It's like, Clay, like your smile, man, like people love, like he really made me embrace, right, that part of me. And I smile a lot on purpose, but it's all genuine. And it's easy. It's just easy for me to do because, I'm happy. Like I love life. I love other people. I love investing in with other people. And that those are 2 specific things that, I learned about myself, that, the way I carried myself, the way that when people approached me, I changed my office around. I changed the way that I engaged with people, and I worked really hard on not being intimidating as a leader. And then, the other, so those are 2 things that I didn't know that I became self-aware of. And, Emotional Intelligence 2.0 is a great read around. And the thing I love about EQ, and I know we're not on that topic, but it is increasing your emotional intelligence. See, everybody's born with IQ. And you're born with what you got. I'm sorry. Like, you just stuck with it. Like, I wish I had Chad Coaster's freaking super high IQ, right? Emotional intelligence is something that we can improve on. We can get better at. We can raise our EQ, emotional quotient. Quotient is a score. And you can raise your score by investing into yourself and learning how to. And there's different principles that make up that score, right? And self-awareness is one of them. So that's a good question. Thank you for asking that, because now you've sparked a little something for me to work on. This year is like, what are my blind spots? Which is funny, because this business group that I'm a part of, we're actually talking a lot about that, a lot about blind spots. That we don't see for ourselves, but because other people have been in these situations, or they know you well enough. One of the guys that I connect, he's an accountability partner in this business group. I talk to him once a week. Half the time he loves to travel. His goal is to visit every country, and he is about 90% there. Wow. In the world. Yeah. I've been to 27 countries, like 46, 47 states in the United States. I'm nothing. Like, this guy is just off the charts. Yeah. Killing it. So fun. And he really is the smartest guy in the room. Very, very smart. And, but helping me to see the things that I'm not seeing in the moment. And so, I'm gonna really like think through those things. And I think that the way to get to that answer is by talking to the people that know me the best, right? Like, what are the things that you see that I should maybe be working on in my life? And that's where a great coach, comes in.
Yeah.
Like consolidated coaching.
Oh, shameless plug. Shameless plug for consolidated coaching. So maybe we can talk about that briefly, and then we'll end and we'll go have dinner. But, what I have found in the people that are most loyal to coaching, it's really because I feel like one of my superpowers is like, I've built a good tribe of people, right? And even if I'm not the one delivering the coaching, there's 11 people in there that we've done a total over the last 2.5 days of maybe 4 hours of me leading something, and the rest of it is them coaching each other. The name of this event was like work together. So we're all working. I'm still making my sales calls. We're answering stuff. And it's just like, hey, I want to see in real time how that person deals with the situation. How do you organize your email, right? What CRM are you using? Like, really work together. And I know you've been in the same tribe for many, many, many years of this business development group. And we could spend a whole episode just talking about that. Yeah. But what has been the power for you, or the pickup for you in signing up for the coaching, having the mastermind group, finding your tribe? Like, for those people that are trying to evaluate, is coaching right for me? Like, how do I find my tribe? Maybe you could talk a little bit about how coaching has impacted your life, and how having that tribe of people to like bounce business ideas off of, how that's improved your life.
So, great. I love where you just went. So there's two different aspects of this. So the business group that I'm in is not a coaching group. We are all in completely different industries. And we're going to get to the other coaching piece. The business group is, we're all in completely different industries. We don't do business with one another. There's a lot of a system in place, like rules, no one is, and there's a lot of wealth in the room. There's a lot of zeros in the room. From them, right? From them. But no one is more important than anyone else in the room. And we have a lot of structure around how we function organizationally. We've got bylaws. Your phone rings during the meeting, it's a $100 fine. You're late for a meeting, it's $5 a minute. Doesn't matter who you are. You miss a retreat, you're automatically kicked out. It doesn't matter what the reason is. And that we can vote you back in, but like, we just did this and we actually kicked somebody out this year, right? That had been in for a long time. There's 8 of us. And the core, there's 5 of us that have been in for 20 years. I'm one of the 20-year guys. And this is, it's become more than just a business group. It's a life group, and there's everything that you could possibly touch on that exists in this room. Death, bankruptcy, loss, litigation, huge wins, marriage, sales, babies, it runs the gamut. And, being able to be tightly connected. And so, which kind of goes into like the coaching, there is definitely a lot of coaching that takes place. That is one of the reasons that we exist, is to invest into each other, and really pour in to help one another succeed. And, goals, like we're covering goals right now. And when one of us has a problem, we show up, we're prepared, we're coached on presentation of the challenge that's going on in our life, our business, whatever it is. And we work through that together. It's a breach of confidentiality is automatic boot. You do not breach confidentiality, and which is a very high level of trust, and incredibly high level of trust in that room. So these are things that and by the way, it's not cheap. We pay monthly dues, and those dues are used to help fund whatever a speaker that we have coming in, or if we're traveling. We usually travel out of the country now most of the time, and we go learn about the banking infrastructure in Panama as an example, or so we go to different countries and learn about their Mila, the new president for Argentina. We just got back from there. Oh my gosh, we could talk a whole podcast. I should tell you about some of the stuff. I guess awesome. But coaching is, and I'll share. I'm paying right now for 2 different coaches in 2 different areas that I want to invest in myself, and part of this too is there's a lot that you can get from books and podcasts, but when you're paying your hard-earned money, and I'm very utilitarian driven, money matters to me, and so me pulling out my pocket, and paying money, it's a big deal. And so when the aspect of having a real person listen to your problems, right?
Right.
And helping you navigate in their area of expertise. So Richard Milligan is he's a great a recruiting coach. So he doesn't recruit, he coaches other folks on how to recruit. And listen, the thing I love about the leaders that we have signed up for this, we have 17 leaders, which is almost all just about every senior leader that we have has signed up. And what I love about that is that they recognize, they know that they need help. I know I need help, and being able to learn new tactics, right? Learn new systems, learn strategies, and move from left brain to right brain, and there's so much new information that I get because I'm paying someone for their expertise, and that's a powerful thing. And then showing up with your homework done. There's homework. It takes work. These little social media things that I'm doing, I'm putting in the work, man. I'm curating. Jeff Fitzer, I'd say Jeff Fitzer's my coach in social media, and he's awesome. He knows. I was like, man, I'm doing the suck right now, right? I'm working my butt off on the weekends, and and I'm like, man, I forgot to do the captions. He's like, look, bro. He's like, I've been doing this for 8 years. It's like, you just started, right? And so it's painful a lot of times to watch some of the content that I'm producing. And I get ragged on by my son. You'll see tomorrow. He literally was like, "Dad, you smile too much." I was like, "It's like you smile too much when you do these podcasts. It's cringy. You're killing me." I was like, "I don't care. It's me, right? That's who I am." But it takes work, and you show up. If you're gonna pay for coaching, and you don't do the work, don't freaking do the coaching. Like, and the other aspect where I'm investing into leadership coaching from Jesse Itzler. I mean, the guy's like bought and sold multiple companies. He's married to, Sarah Blakely, just sold Spanx, right? And he is so hardcore, and he's just, what I love about him is he is you, and you're probably on steroids. I don't know that he could keep up with you, but let me tell you what this guy does at a very high level. He's action driven. He takes so much massive action, and he embraces the suck, very much Goggins like, right?
Right.
He is an animal, and I'm learning how to better structure my year, right? I'm sure you've read the 12-week year, right? He's talking about like, okay, I just got my big A calendar. It just showed up at the house. I can't wait to get home and work on this thing. It's the entire calendar year in one view. And, you choose your Misagi.
It's up there.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah.
That's awesome. You choose your Misagi, your one thing that you're going to do that is your core, right? The thing that you're going to invest into yourself in. Maybe it's running a marathon, doing a sprint. It shouldn't be easy. It's not a vacation. Like the thing that you work for and deliver, and you feel really good about after you've done it. I don't know what my Misagi is. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to execute on it. The once every other month, and doing something new that you've never done before. I've never paid for, I've never paid for coaching from a guy that's, worth a lot of money.
Right. Lots of zeros.
Lots of zeros. And this is fun. This is new for me, but figuring out what those new things that I'm doing that are going to be implemented over the next year. I wouldn't have known that if I didn't it was, you have no idea how hard it was to pull that trigger. But one of the things that I'm doing this year that I decided at the end, actually, it was at my buddy Kuba Yevgeniev's house. We're up in Vail. He puts on Jesse Itzler. I hear him doing this interview on podcast, and he's just like firing me up. He's telling me about the 31 days, or he's telling the podcast guy, 31 days that he spent with a SEAL, right? And I'm like, you know what? He did something he's never done before. He's pushing the envelope. He said, I wanted to do something to get out of my comfort zone. And in that moment, I turned to Kuba and I was like, I'm so fired up right now. You have no idea what I'm about to do this year. Like what I'm about to do when I get home. And I did it. I've taken so much action, from financial pieces to infrastructure, in what my scenarios look like. I trust in different things, taking massive action in business, coaching. I signed up for Itzler's coaching because I want to get out of my comfort zone. I put it on social that I'm going to be more social. And by the way, it's engaging with people. It's not necessarily just social media. I put it out there that I'm taking action in things that I haven't done before. And this, let me tell you, and I love you. I love you, Scott. And thank you so much for inviting me to do this. I would have never done this.
Yeah, you would have canceled for sure.
I would have just told it's not. I'm not. I don't live there. I would have come up with a bunch of excuses because this is so. And what's funny is I'm not. Is I've actually had a lot of fun. I was looking forward to it. Right. So yesterday I was like, dang it, I screwed it up. And this is out of the comfort zone for me. It's new. I've never done this before, but I'm committed to getting out of my comfort zone and pushing myself in ways that I haven't been pushed before, and a direction that is refreshing, because I can't ask somebody else to do something that I'm not willing to do, that I'm not doing myself. And, I think that you should be in, and here's the thing, I really do. I'm in 2 different coaching things right now, one for recruiting, one for leadership, getting out of my shell, breaking the routine, doing some things differently. I'm embracing it all. And I'm doing that because of coaching.
It's awesome, man. That's going to lead to the final two questions here. I always ask these two questions, but this is super relevant based on what you just said. Number one is like, what's the thing that you're looking most forward to in 2024? And then what's your favorite movie and why?
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward most to this year on looking back and seeing all the things that I've broken the mold on around how I have framed my life. Because, we live in these boxes, right? Like maybe your boxes, like you go home and, it's been a tough day. You kick up your feet. Your wife, maybe you're lucky and she's fixing you dinner. You pop a bottle of bourbon. You have a couple of drinks. You smoke a cigar. You turn on the tube. You watch, reruns of Seinfeld, whatever your mole is. And I can't wait to look back on this year and see all the crazy, the things in life that I have lived in. I have participated. I didn't watch life. I participated in life. I didn't watch things go by. I was involved in making them happen. I took action. And I can't wait to look back on this year and see all the things and this came to me actually today. And I realized I'm so embarrassed to say this out. I really am. I don't even want to say it. And it's not anything that would be embarrassing, but I have sucked so long at sustainability. And what I mean by that is I'm really great at doing things for 30 days. Like a sprint, a 90 days. But I am so committed and April 1st put it in your calendar. You call me and you'd be like, are you still embracing the suck? Right? Call me out on this if I'm not doing it, because I know myself. I get really fired up. I'm knee deep. I'm also really not good at half in. I am so if I'm going to go on a diet, I'm all in. I can't one of my goals last year. This is really bad. One of my goals last year was I'm going to have a healthy relationship with my food. Yeah. I just hit 200 pounds. It's the heaviest I've ever weighed in my life. I'm not being funny. I woke up this morning. I was just miserable. I had a great meal with all my buddies last night, and I'm like, I'm done. I went on a diet this morning. I'm all in. I told my wife, I'm like, a specific diet that I know works. It's sustainable for me, but there's zero cheating. I don't cheat, and I will be on this diet, and I will get I will accomplish my goal weight, and I will be in great shape. You know what it was too. I woke up this morning and I did 10 push-ups. I was like, I'm kind of hurting. And I did 12 more. And then I think I might actually bruised my hand. I'm so out of shape and I'm just done. I'm done. I reached that point of I'm miserable and I'm fixing it. Right. Plus I'm going to see Jesse Itzler in a couple of weeks and I don't want to be not committed to being healthy. You got to be your fighting week. Yeah. And so, that's the thing I'm looking most forward to, is looking back and seeing all the stuff that I have accomplished, that I'm proud of, that I broke the mold of, that I've got out of my little safety box life from. The second question was
favorite movie and why?
Man, it's always been, it's Braveheart. I know that that's everybody's all got, but I just love. I love the passion and the relentless pursuit and the unwavering relentlessness of this guy, and it was based off of a true, an actual guy that lived, right? And his pursuit of this ideal and his willingness to just not relent. I just eat that freaking lunch, man.
I love that movie. I love it, man. All right. Well, the next time you're in Vegas, hopefully after April 1st, we're going to have you back on the podcast so we can see if you're still this fired up.
Oh,
I want to go change everything right now. I'm just like, every time I talk to you, man, I get fired up, which is probably a good trait for a leader to have. But, man, I know your time is valuable. I know you stayed an extra day in Vegas just so we could do this. So I really appreciate it, man. Yeah. And anytime, you're always welcome back on. We'll do like 13 podcasts this year, and then you can say that you did them all.
Thank you. This has been so much fun, man. Thanks for helping me get out of my shell here.
All right. Love you, man.
Love you.